What's poppin', everybody? This is Ray Rawlins of the Ray Rawlins Network, and I'm joined by Alex Payne. It is October 1st, and as we said, we are bringing to y'all the 31 Days of Halloween Cartoons Marathon reviews. Obviously, if we could show cartoons, we would have them bad boys playing right now. We wouldn't have to hear our lame asses talk. But you know what? This is what we got to do. We got to review these episodes, and this is a good chance for both of us to go down memory lane. We're starting off with the first Treehouse of Horror of The Simpsons, which honestly is my favorite series all time. The second series we're doing throughout this month is Courage the Cowardly Dog, which is one of Alex's favorite series of all time. So,
Yeah.
without further ado, we're going to get down into this episode. Now, everybody knows in good Treehouse of Horror fashion, we're going to have three stories throughout this one episode. Now, the first story is about Homer Simpson's cheap ass buying a house that ends up being on an Indian burial ground, haunted and whatnot. And it goes off the tale of the poltergeist, all the weird shit happening in the house, things flying everywhere, the house talking back to you and whatnot. And the second story is about the Simpsons being, I guess you could say, I wouldn't say kidnapped, but picked up by Kang and Kodos, the two aliens. And they're promised paradise. They're being fed, real good meals and whatnot, getting nice and plump. And they end up finding out they're going to be eaten, or at least Lisa thinks they're going to be eaten. Now, the third episode, or third part of the episode, I should say, is when Homer Simpson is in Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven, which, in my opinion, I'm going to give y'all a little spoiler. I think it's a little shitty. I really didn't care for it that much, that part of the episode. But Alex Payne, I want to say, this was your first episode of Simpsons seeing, right? What did you think about it?
Well, I wouldn't say that. I've probably seen an episode at some point, but this this definitely isn't a good start for me.
I don't know, man. Like, I when we were looking at all the episodes that we're going to do, the Treehouse of Horrors, I wanted to figure out what the first one was. I was kind of pumped to see was this one. Like, me being a lifelong fan of The Simpsons, I remember this was one of my favorites as a child, but like I said, I'm going to give y'all a little spoiler alert. I'm going to talk about the final ratings and reviews later. Rewatching it, I mean, there was some okay moments, I guess. It's not the best episode. Obviously, like, watching it again from a critic standpoint and not as a fan, you got to think, man, remove the bias. It's not the best episode out there. It's really not.
Yeah.
It's really not.
It's not even because
But,
like the lack of moments. It's the fact that, and I guess this is turning into the review, but it's the lack of like the stories pretty much just end. Like literally,
right.
it's like they just end.
And that's the whole thing with them doing three stories in a 30-minute time limit. Honestly, less than that because
I
of
wouldn't even say
commercials.
that because you could do more. I feel like they could do a lot more. They could do more than they did in those episodes or something. Like, or maybe
Yeah,
structure them differently. Because like they just like the first one. Um, he just they're in the haunted house. They're like, we want to live here. The house is like, let me think about it, and then it kills itself. That's literally what happens. Then the second one, they're in this ship. Lisa's like, you're gonna eat us, and they're pretty much just like, how dare you? And then they drop them back on Earth and leave. So it's
right.
like they literally just end. The only one that didn't just end and actually like I would say stayed consistent throughout was the Raven one.
Which, ironically, is the
Strangely
one that I
enough.
like the least. So, I don't know. And you're right, though. You're right. I feel like, honestly, and this is going to be the downfall I feel for all episodes of The Simpsons, or not all episodes of The Simpsons, Treehouse of Horror specifically, because, like I said, I honestly do think time does matter. When you limit yourself to amount of time, you got to separate three stories up in under 30 minutes. And yeah, you're right. You can probably get them done in time, whatnot, da
Because
da
I'll even
da,
say
woo woo
this
woo.
perfect example. Family Guy did that with the Stephen King stories, and they did that perfectly. They did
Right.
the Stand By Me, I think that story's called, the Shawshank Redemption, and the Misery. They did those three in one episode, and every story had a good amount of time. Everything worked
You're
flowed
right. You're
perfectly.
right. You're right. But
You know
like
what I think it was that killed it,
what?
at least time wise. They wasted way too much time on the beginning with Marge talking all that shit, and plus like Homer doing all that other shit too. If they just immediately started doing the stories, just with like this is Treehouse of Horrors, and then started the episodes and shit, then they would have
You
been
know what?
perfect. But they
Now that
wasted
you
too much time doing other
and,
shit.
and you're kind of right. You're kind of right. But and to kind of go back to what you said with that is you have Bart talking about this. Bart and Lisa sitting back, and it's Halloween time. They're telling scary stories. And now that you mention it, yeah, you're right. If they took all that shit out, they probably could have added more time in. They're definitely could have added more time in. But not only that, though, I think this is the funny part. I remember after the first two stories, Bart and Lisa were like, "Oh yeah, that story's not scary. Oh, tell a better one. That story's not scary." So, which is kind of like, damn, okay. I think they were trying to give themselves a little leeway there. Like the whole point of it was not to be good because it's being told by children. I don't know, maybe I'm overthinking it, but hey, if that was their goal, there's some smart motherfuckers.
I think I think it was a safe valve. If it wasn't scary, then they could say, "Oh, it's the kids,"
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
ha
yeah.
ha. But if it was, it'd be
Right.
like, "Ha, I got you." But you ain't a big man as he is.
Now, let me ask you, out of all these three episodes, we usually talk about favorite moments, but let's talk about what was your favorite part of this episode? Like, which story did you enjoy the most?
Um, hmm. I don't even. I honestly, don't- I guess I want to say the Raven one.
Really? Get out of here for real?
Yeah, I think purely because like I literally just heard that poem the other day,
Oh,
and
well,
plus
yeah.
like, and
Bias.
plus I think no, it's not bias. It's more so like, huh. Because you asked me which one I enjoyed the most, and because if you take out that criteria, which I don't even think that applies to it, I just think like what they was doing and watching them. See, that's why I say that that one is the best one in a concept sense because they have to create visuals for a poem.
Right, right.
So that's why I give that one the most credit. And plus, I think like even though I didn't exactly laugh at some of them, I could see how some of the moments would have been funny, like when he got hit with shit or
Right.
whatever. Like when he was like, "There's something casting a shadow in there," and then something busts him in the head. Like I could see how that would be funny. So
I
yeah, that's why I say that. That's the closest I came to actually enjoying anything about any of the stories. So
All right, all right. I gotta say my favorite one, and the only reason why I say that is because it felt the most intense to me is the first story, the whole haunted house one. Now, I'll stick by if they had that strung out for like maybe 30 minutes, like have one episode fully dedicated to that. I think it would have turned out way better. That's just my opinion. That's just my opinion because I personally don't like time crunches. So I think you know what if I could choose one out of those three stories that I wanted to be added onto is the whole haunted house part of the story, the poltergeist story. So I think that's one of my favorites. It felt the most scary. It felt the most intense because I'm not a big fan of ghosts. I don't think you are. I know you're not. You don't like ghosts either. So I
but I
think
don't
I
think
picked
that
that
was
up.
like scary in a ghost way though. I don't even think that was any like I don't. I mean, obviously it's not gonna be scary, but I didn't feel like any way about it.
Right, right.
It was it was just a house getting at. See, because I feel like once you turn it into the house is talking to you, then I feel like that turns from a ghost movie to a monster movie. Because it's now instead of
Right.
it being ghost, it's a living house.
Right, right, right. Yeah, and the house was dripping blood and whatnot. Let's get into final ratings though. I'm gonna go first as a whole. We're talking about the episode as a whole, of course. Um, I gotta say, it wasn't that bad. It wasn't terrible. I've seen worse Treehouse of Horrors. Like I said,
Oh my
this
god, I would
one
like to
was.
see those.
I personally like the characters, so it's gonna give me a little bit of bias here. I'm openly gonna admit that. There's some moments in there that I didn't touch on very much, especially with the first story. I liked how Bart, being his whole rambunctious self, basically egging the whole ghostly house on. Make the house bleed, do it. Make the walls bleed. Do it, dude. Do it. Just motherfucking, just a rowdy, rambunctious kid. I think I love that shit, man. For not seeing The Simpsons in a good minute, just going back and revisiting that, just I love Bart. Bart was my little homie, man. When I was real little, I always loved Bart Simpson. Um, but little moments like that I really enjoyed, really brought out the character. And I will say this, the episode was not the best, but I did enjoy the first two parts of the episode. I wouldn't say it's, like I said, I wouldn't say it's the best, but I don't want to dog it either. I'm going to put it right in the middle at a nice 5.5 to a 6 out of 10. I didn't enjoy the Raven episode though. Maybe I'm wrong about that. I'm sure you disagree with me on that, but I don't know.
No, listen. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's good.
I'm not a big fan of poetry. That's my thing.
I'm not saying it's good. I'm just saying like it's not. I'm just saying that's the closest I would say, because like certain gags they did was the closest it came to being interesting.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. But I would give it. I gotta give this a solid 4.
Oh shit!
Yeah, I gotta give it a solid 4. And plus, we didn't mention this yet, and I mean, you shouldn't, so I'm not really factoring this in. I just want to mention it. It's because it's an old episode, but the sound quality is kind of terrible.
Yeah, that was when they were just starting up. So,
and that's the thing too. That's what goes with the ghost story too. That ghost house sounded absolutely terrible. It sounded like someone was calling in from Skype to try to scare them.
Get out.
So yeah.
Calling in from Skype, asshole.
Yeah, they're calling in from Skype.
That had to be in like the 1990s, bro. Maybe 1989.
They're calling in from Skype using friggin' $5 headphones. So yeah, I gotta give it a solid 4.
Damn, I think that's the most our reviews ever differed. Honestly, but like I said, I'm gonna be a little bit biased.
It's only by 1
like
point though.
Yeah, but 4 to a 5.5 is a big jump. I realistically did say 6, but I'll give it a 5.5. I really want to give it a 6 though. I'm weird with numbers, man. But listen, let's not drag this out too long. I give it a 5.5. You give it a 4. That's pretty much it. That's all. Tomorrow we have a nice Courage the Cowardly Dog review coming up for y'all. And we're going to continue this cycle every day for the month of October. Monday, Simpsons. Tuesday, Courage the Cowardly Dog. Wednesday, we're starting to back up with the Simpsons, and y'all pretty much going to recognize the pattern. My name is Ray Rawlins. We're on the Ray Rawlins Network. I'm joined by Mr. Alex Payne. Cartoons. We talk them daily, at least for this month. And, we're doing that shit, man. Happy Halloween. We're getting this shit kicked off with a good start with this marathon. Watch all these episodes with us and all that good shit. Come see what we got to say about it all day, every day, all that shit. We'll see you when we see you. Peace.